All right, I call the January 26th meeting of the school committee to order. I'll do a quick review of the agenda and then we will jump in. So we'll start with public comment for anything that's not on the agenda. We'll move to our consent agenda. We'll take reports from those individuals who are with us this evening. And then in the new business section, we're first going to have an update from food services or on food services, which we're very excited about. I know it's been a topic of high interest to this committee, so we're excited for that one. Dr. Milichewski will provide a brief update on his progress against some of his goals, which we'll use to inform our formative evaluations, and then we'll kick off that process. I'll just share with the committee a little bit of what we're thinking about in terms of timing and expectations for that. That will be the end of that discussion. And then we'll close out tonight with what will be our final discussion, at least within, at this committee, on the FY24 budget. So we'll have any final discussion on the budget itself and take a vote this evening to adopt the budget as the school committee's recommended budget, which will then move it on to finance committee and so forth. So that's the agenda for this evening. You'll note that I have us slated to adjourn at 8:30, so I hope you'll all take that as a personal challenge to, beat or at least meet that mark. So we'll just throw that out there. All right, let's start with public comment for anything that's not on the agenda this evening. Going once, going twice. Okay. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
And is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Chuck. Any discussion on the consent agenda tonight?
Just one quick point, I guess.
Okay.
Talked to Dr. Milichewski about this briefly earlier today. I'm not sure if we have a chance to do it or not, but I know that the high school, in particular this room, is in the process of doing like a book drive to refill this room with more books. And it seems silly that we're getting rid of, unless we've already decided to keep some of these copies of these books here in this room. So I just want to make sure that, maybe there were 32 copies of Famous American Plays before, and now we're getting rid of 30, and 2 of them are staying here in the library or something like that. But, we obviously don't need that many copies in this library, but as long as we're keeping the good ones still around, that's what I wanted to make sure of, so.
I can speak briefly to that. These copies are the oldest, most tattered books, not in great shape. I did reach out to the teacher who placed these books on the surplus list to ask more questions about how many books have been kept. Before any items are disposed of in any way, we always circulate the list of items to all the other schools, all the other departments in town. So we will be reaching out to the Reading Library to see if perhaps these are books that they would appreciate as well. We also make efforts to resell books and other curriculum materials and items. So this is essentially the first step.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, we'll move to the vote. All in favor? And all opposed? Carries 5-0. Let's move to reports, and Ms. Baton, we'll start with you.
Yes, this evening I have 2 very brief reports. One is related to communication with families, most recently related to the SNAP Health Portal. Mary Juliana, our Director of Health Services, had received questions from some families about this recent email inviting them to log on to SNAP to update their children's health information. Mary shared with us that this health portal allows parents to directly upload documentation such as physicals, medication orders, and doctor's notes directly to their students' health records. And in this way, it reduces paper, increases privacy, and allows for direct communication between the school nurse and the parent or guardian. So she wanted to confirm that, yes, this is a login invitation that was initiated by us, and that if families are having difficulty logging in, to wait a day or 2 and to try again. She also invited any families who had additional questions or comments to reach out to her directly. The second information that I wanted to share with school committee and the community this evening is related to a new communication protocol that we're implementing to communicate with families about a student's unreported absence. On any given day, if a student is absent and if the school office has not received any communication from home, secretaries call the families. And this is pretty long and intensive process. So at the preschool, elementary, and middle school levels, we're going to adopt the program that's being used here at Reading Memorial High School, which is the use of Blackboard Connect. It's an automated dialing messaging service, so that every morning those students that were absent, that do have unreported absences, secretaries will be communicating with families more efficiently, more quickly through this automated messaging services. So families will be receiving, rather than a phone call from the secretary, they'll be receiving a phone call, email, and text from the office, the school office. I wanted to thank Amy Greco, one of the elementary school secretaries. I'd like to thank Stacy Scouten and Tracy Jorgensen here at the high school, who are going to be initiating training tomorrow for all of the secretaries to use this program. Amy was the person who learned about the high school's use of this program and felt like it would be incredibly helpful to all the other secretaries. And lastly, I'd like to thank Lori Miller for setting up the system for all secretaries to gain access. So we'll be rolling this out at the beginning of February, and if families do have any feedback, if school committee has feedback about the process, please feel free to notify me, and hoping that it helps everyone.
Great. Thank you. Dr. Milczewski.
Great, just have one thank you and then a couple of quick updates. First, thank you. This year we've been really appreciative of just the work of all of our educators, but I'd also say the extra work and burden we know that our K-5 educators have taken on with new curriculum, whether we're talking about Art Core, illustrative math. I and our team have had the pleasure of spending time in classrooms. We're just seeing teachers diving in has been really encouraging for us, and we don't take lightly the amount of work that teachers have taken on, the amount of time that they're putting in to get up to speed with the curriculum. I'll just share just specifically this week, it was really exciting for me that I feel like it was kind of a full circle week where I had the opportunity to observe leaders in action through an Art Core training, see teachers in planning, K-2 teachers planning around illustrative math, and then also today to be able to see a student event at Killam. So I want to kind of talk about some of my takeaways. First, earlier this week, we had our leader training for principals with Art Core, and to hear the way that first of all, that our leaders are talking about instruction, the way that our leaders are speaking about, the way that our teachers are diving in, looking at data, seeing student progress is really encouraging to see at scale just the work, the impact of Art Core, and the way that that's pushing our teachers, pushing our principals, and being really thoughtful about what's happening in our ELA classrooms. I had the opportunity then to spend time both in a K planning session and a 1 and 2 planning session for illustrative math. Spending time hearing the teachers to hear about their success stories this far, to hear how thoughtful they are about instructional decisions, to hear about just how hard they're working to navigate and understand a new curriculum is, I think, just really inspiring. And I think as a superintendent, I'm obviously really appreciative, but also as a parent, to see educators really pouring themselves all in on the new curriculum amidst everything else on their plate, I think is really, we all really appreciate. And then today to kind of see some of that impact on students. I had the opportunity to go over to Killam today to see their grade 4 writing showcase. I don't know if some of you already saw some of the work published out there. But this was at the end of Unit 2. Students were able to speak. I got to read a lot about animals, and I got to learn a lot about snakes, a lot about sharks, a lot about sea turtles, a lot of fun facts. I was blown away by the quality of writing of our students. Huge thank you to our, 4th grade teachers at Killam. I just think that to see what our students are able to produce, the passion of which they spoke about their nonfiction topics was really, really exciting. Some fun facts I learned today, which I did not know. I didn't know that snakes are independent from their family, from their mother, immediately upon hatching from the egg. I didn't know that sharks have 5 layers of teeth. I don't know if anyone else knew that. And I have many others still, but it's that can go on. But it is. I want the community to understand just the lift that it is on our teachers to take on new curriculum tools, and to think that our teachers are really diving in and doing an amazing job, and just to see it at all levels in action, from leaders to teachers, and then the impact on students is really encouraging. So huge shout out to all of our K-5 teachers. I have a second announcement. This is just from RMHS around Mass Hire Metro North Workforce Board partnership. So I'm just going to read this aloud from the team. RMHS is excited to announce a new collaboration with Mass Hire Metro North Workforce Board that created an opportunity for seniors, beginning with the class of 2023, to participate in paid internships during term 4. So it's April 4th to the end of May / the first week of June. RMHS was just awarded 20 STEM and 15 to 20 education internships that are 100 hours each, paid at $15 an hour, which for us is a grand total of $93,000, which will go directly back into interested RMHS seniors. This amazing opportunity is made possible through a DESE grant to Mass Hire. RMHS has had limited participation, as you know, in the past years in the education internship, thanks to the efforts of Wellness Department Head Ms. Fiorello. However, the STEM partnership is new for Reading. Students in early childhood development and field seminar classes will have the right of first refusal for education internships since they are already engaged in the field. RMHS science and math department leaders will work with their faculty members to promote STEM internships to seniors. The Director of Academic Achievement, Jess Callanan, is the point contact for questions related to the Mass Hire internship opportunities. She's also working with the Reading Chamber of Commerce to establish local STEM internship opportunities. RMHS will not leave any internships unfilled and will recruit interested seniors in both fields prior to the end of term 3. I think that this aligns with a lot of the work that Jess and the rest of the high school team is doing to get our students out in the community with hands-on learning opportunities and work opportunities. And we're also really excited that it comes with $93,000 that's going to go directly back to our students. So shout out to the RMHS team for securing that grant as well.
Go ahead, Tom.
Do we know how it's going to fit in their schedules?
Great question.
I mean, the seniors are going to be in normal classes all the way through the middle of May.
Yep.
And this goes from April through to beginning of June, you said, right? So
Correct.
how is that going to fit, or are they expect to do it after school?
Great question. Are you, before I give any misinformation, are you comfortable if I report back on that?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I've heard that it may look slightly different for the education internship versus the STEM internship, but I will have more details to share. And then the last one, just like to give a shout out and exciting news for around Susan. So Susan Botan was just named as MASBO's vice president, which is really exciting. So the Massachusetts Association of School Business Officials. She's very humble about it. She will tell you she was unopposed, but still, I think very well deserved. So I thought, and Susan was
supposed to let her tell us. You don't tell us.
She was recruited for the role as well. So a couple of things I think I can share internally in our context. I think we have, over the past couple of years, really come to appreciate Susan's leadership and the impact it has had on our students in our district. And I'm really excited that in this role that she'll be able to expand her impact and support other districts as well too. So I want to make it clear that this means Susan is remaining in Reading. This is part-time. She can do while she's in the role, but I think is a testament to her skill and her leadership, and I think will be well received by others across the state. So thank you and congratulations to Susan.
Great, thank you, and congratulations. Okay, liaison reports. Chuck?
No report. The coalition meeting was canceled last night, so.
Okay. Sarah?
No report.
Tom?
No report.
Carla?
Hi, I have a report. 2 weeks ago, Aaron and I attended Barrows and looked at and walked through the classrooms, and they gave us a presentation on ArtCore, and we went into different classrooms. And we saw, one of the things that impressed me about it, and I was really impressed with what the teachers were doing, is how all of the information and testing, constant assessments of students gets put in and how that data is used. So that was huge. And then Chuck and I, on Tuesday, were at Birch Meadow, and we went into 3 or 4 different classrooms at different points and saw illustrative math being rolled out. We got to talk about coaches and their staffs, and even with the coaching with ArtCore as well. So it's awesome, as we all have said, going into the classrooms and seeing what the teachers are doing, the students, and all the interactions. So it was awesome.
That's great, thank you. I just wanted to share, just for the committee's awareness, the FinCom review of our budget will be on March 1st. We'll post for that night, so I'll reiterate this at our next meeting as well. We'll have our regular meeting the next night on March 2nd, unfortunately, but that's just sort of how the calendar shook out. But I just wanted to give everybody a heads up on that, since we will be posted for that evening, so. Okay, with that, we will move on to new business and invite Ms. Franzetti up. And Dr. Milczewski, can you share the thing there? So there's a clicker there on the last seat, and Dr. Milczewski can get us shared. Then you can drive your own ship.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you have to.
I thought you were bringing like
Since we're bringing snacks, I should have brought snacks.
Samples. Andy, can you turn us down a little bit? We're really hot. Sorry? The mics are really hot. Can we? The presentation,
just go to view.
You have the PowerPoint, right?
No, this one's a PDF. The PowerPoint's the goals one. Go to the view menu.
Yeah.
And then you should be able to go into full screen mode. Yep. Good to go.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize for not bringing snacks. Thank you. I just want to start tonight with a thank you for the opportunity to be of service to this community and district as a whole. It's been a blessing this whole time, and this presentation has been an opportunity for myself to reflect on my last 4 months here and what this department has done. And I just want to thank the food service team. They all took a leap of faith with me, and they've been following me these last 4 months, and I'm really proud of what they're doing. The unwavering support from the district and the community of Reading has been overwhelming, and it's just been a welcoming experience overall. And thank you to the central office team for being absolutely supportive in everything. Susan's every Thursday we have our one-on-ones, and she's just, anything I need, she's right there, and Tom's energy is phenomenal as well. So it's been a blessing to be a part of this entire community. I'm just gonna go ahead here, all right? Yeah. Aha. Okay, excuse me. All right, so presentation overview. We're going to look at the philosophy and the focus of the school lunch program as a whole. Current highlights, the breakfast and lunch participation and meal sales overall, student, family, and staff feedback, staff recruitment, retention, and professional development, school, student, and community engagement, and overall operational improvements that we've made throughout the district, or excuse me, throughout the department, and what we look to see in the future. All right, so school plays an important role in shaping lifelong healthy habits by offering nutritious meals and for healthy students to make better learners. The CDC states that school plays an important role in shaping lifelong healthy eating habits by offering nutritious meals through federal school nutrition programs. School meals overall include milk, fruit, vegetables, and whole grains, and they provide key nutrients like calcium and fiber. Schools can communicate with families about participation in school meal programs and let them know some students are eligible to receive free or reduced meals. Encourage students to start their day with school breakfast. Healthy students are better learners overall. Research shows that healthy eating habits lead to strong, healthy learners. Excuse me, I'm losing my train of thought here. As an overall as for the department, we're looking to focus on nutritious, fresh, locally sourced whole foods for our overall student body. Ensure that all students at all grade levels, elementary through the high school, have equitable options for all healthy choices while accommodating their dietary needs. Expose students to new food choices by diversifying the menu and offering them opportunities to taste new menu items. Focusing on professional development for all staff to create a more skilled team and food service employees, and shift all the kitchens to a more scratch cooking model with the goal to increase nutrient density and overall lower food cost. We've expanded breakfast participation overall in the secondary schools. We've added some new options. We've transitioned to add more whole grain English muffins on the breakfast sandwiches, changed to a cleaner chicken sausage. We've offered daily smoothies at the high school, and we're soon going to offer them at Parker and Coolidge as well. We've offered daily yoga parfaits at the Grab and Go for the high school all day and for lunch at the Coolidge and Parker Middle School. We're also starting to look at more seasonal pastry options to add to breakfast, and we've sourced more gluten-free and lower sugar cereal options to accommodate students looking for healthier options, and also there's a push for more gluten-free for students and teachers. And hopefully in the next couple months, I'll be offering a hot oatmeal and yogurt bar at the high school for breakfast and start baking a little bit more in-house for high school and middle school. Okay, so this is just showing what we've done. This is, we looked at September to December in last year and this year. So last year overall, we served 8,151 breakfasts. This year, we're up to 11,000 and change, and that's just in 4 months. 2% of these sales is actually students buying a second breakfast, and these noticeable trends are trending upwards, and we do see them continuing to grow throughout the school year and into next. Overall, we're serving about 152 breakfasts per day. Lunch participation in the elementary schools has definitely, it's skyrocketed. I put this bullet point, we started offering 2 options on the main lunch for elementary schools, and my first correspondence with a parent was they were inquiring whether the menu was displayed incorrectly because there was 2 options. And I had to go back and forth and say, no, it is displayed correctly, we want to offer more choice. And the correspondence back and forth between myself and her were full gratitude, because her son doesn't like pizza or bagels, and having just a turkey sandwich as an option was a game changer for her. We added a cleaner yogurt for the breakfast option, for the lunch option, daily option in the elementary schools. We were serving Danimals last year. Now we're serving in Upstate Farm. It's a lower sugar, and it comes in a variety of flavors that the kids are all into. We chose a local granola. It's Jeff's Granola. He's made right here in Massachusetts, and all the profits are donated to charity. So we've donated close to $160 to the Reading Food Pantry this quarter. I've split this second half of the year into 2 parts, and we're going to have the middle school vote on where to donate the proceeds for January to March, and then the elementaries vote where to donate the proceeds for the second or third part of the year. We replaced a lot of the frozen bagels with a fresh Fantini bagel, which is a whole grain bagel. It's made also here in Massachusetts, delivered weekly. Simply adding fresh vegetables on the daily options has gained, you should see kids' excitement about cucumbers. They're so excited. And with all these added options, the staff has seen an increase in just daily excitement in students, and I am getting emails from staff asking me about options that they give their kids. Can we put it on the menu? And it's just the interaction between the staff and myself, and them coming up with innovative ideas, and me saying, yes, how can we do it, has been awesome. Adding pepperoni pizza to Friday has been a game changer. It's made everyone happy, so that's awesome. And we've been utilizing a lot more of the DoD Fresh options that we have. They have some local options available that we've introduced, and then we've also sourced some local fruit from a local farm co-op. The manager at Killam gets hugs on a daily after lunch service, so she's very, very excited. And this is a graph just to portray what I just described in terms of what we've done this year to last year, last year to this year. Overall, between all 5 elementary schools, we're serving 965 meals per day versus 938 last year. So, and again, that's 2% of those total sales are kids actually taking a second meal, and we've also seen a 2% increase in overall participation. Next slide is just some pictures. I got to get better at taking more pictures, but this is just what we did. On the left there, we've got a barbecue chicken that we've offered at least I think about once a month, the little kids are covered in barbecue sauce after it. It's pretty awesome. Little side salads, that's the Jeff Granola there, and that's a local fish stick that we got from Red's Best out of Boston. The bottom there is Michelle at Killam utilizing the bananas on a Friday to add a little whipped cream as a treat to go with Pizza Friday. So it's all about balance, veggies and sweets, so. Lunch participation and the secondary level has also increased. We've added smoothies to the lunch menu daily at the high school, and they're doing it at Parker, and they are soon to do it at Coolidge as well. Again, we've offered the local fish as well, which has been kind of a hit. The kids are excited. We're going to try some new fish sandwiches and a little fish taco this week at the next week at the high school. More grab-and-go salads and sandwiches have been a really big hit for the teachers and students alike. Again, we're expanding the gluten-free options and the vegetarian options. There are a lot of students that they are exploring a gluten-free option, whether it's for behavioral issues or just want to try it. So having those options available for them to try has been pretty awesome. We're making our own cauliflower crusted pizza instead of buying it from an outside source that actually we were no longer able to source the original gluten-free, so we started, why not make our own, and it's been a hit in the elementary schools. Also on the grab-and-go options, we've added bento boxes, which is just kind of a grab-and-go that's good for the teachers, they're into that, and also high school students. More local fresh vegetables there as well. This February, we are looking to add Walden Local Meats once a month at the high school. They are providing us with pre-made burger patties. So we're going to offer a local fresh meat on once a month at the high school probably, and if we can expand to the middle schools, we'll make that change. This is a graph to show, again, the increase in participation and sales in our secondary level. Middle school students' participation has increased by 5% overall. High school is up by 2%. 7% of total sales are actually students buying a second lunch again, mostly at the high school. Some kids are coming through a third time at the high school. Football season is intense for chicken sandwiches. So attendance at the high school is kind of a little bit lower than it was last year, so we've seen a little fluctuation there. I want to work in February to see if I can reconfigure the high school serving line to see if we can alleviate a little of the heavy saturation in the first and second lunch and try to facilitate a little bit more of a faster grab-and-go line. But I'll work with facilities there to just kind of basically just moving the puzzle pieces around. There we go. There's just some photos, again, of what's cooking up. All the way on the right there is the daily salad bar that's at the high school. You've got some local farm fresh apples. Chicky at Parker loves to make apple crisp every Friday. Some garden fresh salads, and actually on the left is all DOD fresh government fruits that we got in the fall time, which has been pretty awesome. That's a little more. So you got on the left there, you've got a veggie stir fry, all also DOD fresh food. In the middle there, that is a fajita that was made at Parker the other day, and that is actually all USDA commodity food. And then the yogurt parfait available at the high school there. In October, I sent out a family, student, and staff poll. I did a little Google form and asked them, what do they want to see? Because in all honesty, they're the ones that I'm, working for, and why would I put something on the menu that they don't want? So I put it out there to parents in the middle schools and students of the high school. And what was brought back was pretty alarming. Few requests for Wagyu beef, which I think we might go in the other direction. But overall, it's been you'd be surprised how many kids want to see salads and yogurts, and just, gluten-free was a hot item. So we took that feedback, and that's how we built out most of the October and November, December, and soon to be throughout the school year menu. So the next slide is just basically a breakdown of what was polled, so about 83% of it was students. I think it was about 13% of families, parents of middle school kids looking actually for cleaner options. A lot of them are pushing for more gluten-free options for kids. It's nice to have that option for the kid to walk through and have a gluten-free option and not single them out, that they only have this one gluten-free chicken nugget. They can have a burger or they can have a chicken sandwich. It's just on gluten-free bread. This next is a breakdown of actually what was polled. So we polled from 12th to 6th grade. A lot of the 11th graders were a lot of the seniors leave for lunch, so it's the 11th graders that are really the focus for the high school, the 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. So I asked them basically where do they get their lunch, so 53% of the population polled does get them from the cafeteria, some of them split it, so you have students bringing lunch in from home and getting something at the cafeteria, or leaving and coming back and getting something, so it's kind of a split. As next one was 49% of the population does want to see a salad bar, 31% not really interested, and most people would appreciate it as a secondary option. So that we've incorporated on both the grab-and-go side and the main lunch side on the high school. Next poll, vegetarian options, pretty awkward split there. A lot of the OM in the Parker Middle School is fighting for vegetarian. We did have a student poll, we did a student testing with him there at Parker over the year, and there's a lot of students just asking for the option. I mean, it's just giving them the option. It's not necessarily making it the main lunch, it's just offering it as an available choice. Gluten-free, most of it was parents and high school students that were looking for gluten-free, just as an option, and mostly in the elementary schools too for lunch. Behavioral issues tend to, when they go, if they're working with behavioral issues dietarily, they'll choose to remove dairy and gluten first. So a lot of students in the elementary schools are not necessarily celiac, they're just looking for an option. And then I asked everybody if they're interested in sourcing more local products, and 77% of the population was interested, and that was an important item to them. Staffing and recruitment and retention. It's nice to hire them, but to keep them is great. We've recruited 9 new staff members, which fills all my positions as of February 13th. I did promote one. Liz from Coolidge was a part-time employee. She's been promoted or offered the position as manager there. Her daughter goes to Birch Meadow, and she was very happy to continue on and work full-time as the manager at Coolidge. I'm starting to utilize the teacher and service days to offer professional development for our staff as a full day. We did the first one was all about nutritional components and reimbursable meals. They've had full training on the new point of sale system, safe food handling, food allergies. I partnered with Project Bread to offer a chef-led training session this March 17th. They'll have a full 4 hours. First of it will be customer service, and then they'll have a full 2.5 to 3 hours on we'll split them all up, and they'll all build a recipe together and start to kind of bring the team together a little bit. We host monthly manager meetings to communicate department updates, and that's a really great place where I gain feedback of what the students are liking, what they're not liking. They are very good at communicating what's not working. So, and that's good for me. I mean, I'm not going to put something back on the menu if it's not working. I've ensured that all managers are ServSafe certified. Some of them were not, and we did update that with the Town of Reading Health Department. Got everybody up to date. We're going to register as a district membership with the SNA, which offers continual training for our manager staff. So in the beginning of next year, they'll all go for a back-to-school manager training, which will give them further training in reimbursable meals and school food as an overall. We did implement a new salary schedule for the staff, and that has been, not only has it been awesome in retaining that new staff, but it's whenever we post a job, I have so many people knocking on the door for an opportunity. A lot of it, most of them are either retired and they're just looking for a few hours, or some of them are former stay-at-home moms that are looking for a job just while their kids are in school. Student, school, and community engagement. In the beginning of the year, I did meet with all the principals to kind of see where they were at, what was wrong, what could be helped and facilitated, and what they needed. And I continue to meet with them continually checking in to see how everything's going. I meet with the nurses on a quarterly basis to check in with them to see if they have any feedback about communicating allergens or dietary needs or anything there. I get emails pretty constantly with families reaching out, asking about, I'm actually between the Joshua Eaton nurse right now and a newly diagnosed celiac child in Joshua Eaton, coordinating what are the options for her to lunch. And I try to be as available as possible and get back to families as soon as possible because, I can only imagine sending a celiac child to school and just having that angst. We've collaborated with local farms and vendors. We collaborated with, it's a food co-op that's affiliated with Tufts, and we've been getting local apples right from Wilmington, Farmer Dave, and they've been supplying us with some kind of educational pieces too that we've been posting up in the high school where your apples are coming from. We did meet the polystyrene committee the committee voted off polystyrene. We have complied with that bylaw. I've gotten rid of all the styrofoam, and we've actually transitioned back to the reusable dishwasher safe plates to reduce on waste, which has been awesome. And partnered with Birch Meadow students and school leadership team, the principal, district STEM coordinator, and the facilities to pilot a composting program at Birch. It's going very well. The kids are super excited to compost, and we look to scale that up to be district-wide, hopefully by the end of this year. And I've finally filled the vending machines, so everybody's excited about that. Big win there. Diversified the beverages to include some polar seltzers, some hint waters, and we've been offering little grab-and-go healthy snacks in addition to I can't get rid of Pop-Tarts, but I did get hummus and some hummus and pretzels. This is our taste testing at Parker. Ohm has been piloting vegetarian options, and he's met with Tom last year, and that was the first person I needed to meet with this year. And actually, I was serving breakfast at Parker, and he came through the line, and I was like, So we connected together, and I told him about this new meatless crumble that's out there that I know from Boston, and it's a great product. And he invited his friends for lunch, and all of his friends who were non-vegetarians actually this isn't so bad. So the meatless walking taco is hoped to come this spring, and maybe some flatbread pizzas as well. Jen McGuire, who's our nutrition coordinator, is going to start leading some more new product taste testings this spring and into May and June. All right, so this is size of the operation, the annual budget, 1.6 million. My staff members up to 39. Students served, 3,747. This spring, we will have Advocate come out to conduct a survey and the food service assessment in April-May zone to provide RPS with a report of recommendations for efficiencies and improvements to nutrition and operations. I did meet with him beginning of the year, and we had a really great conversation, just some tidbits and some easy changes that we've implemented at the high school, just changing some packaging and changing the way things are kind of laid out, and it's been well received. The Coolidge Middle School did receive the 400 square foot freezer, of which is awesome. We did equip it with some full shelving, and it's being utilized. It's a great place to house the bulk of our frozen DOD and commodity items, and that's a base camp that we can share between the district. Bruce, our new full-time driver, has been frequenting the freezer almost every day. We did implement the new point of sale system, which has streamlined tracking, renewed all the expired building permits with the town of Reading and bring them all up into operational information up to date. Return the district to compliance with DESI's food service regulations related to direct certification. So we updated the system with all the free and reduced students that are available for assistance. And like I said before, we transitioned to all the reusable flatware in the cafeterias to reduce waste and decrease paper cost. This year, paper has seen a pretty significant increase, so to not use those plates has been awesome. And I've worked with a STEM coordinator at Birch Meadow and town facilities for the piloting the composting. The future looks bright. I collaborated with Curtis Martin in Medco. We are going to offer a training opportunity to our staff February 15th. A Boston-based chef is going to come to us in the morning, cook with the staff a Creole-based or Creole-influenced menu item to feature on the main lunch. And it would be great if we could get some students involved in that as well, and that will be in celebration of Black History Month. I've been working with the Embark students to mass produce our food labels, just the stickers we put on the food to have, they are actually looking for more projects, and that seemed like she was very excited to have that as a daily project. I think she's been apparently stocking the dishwasher with new, not dirty dishes just to get some tasks. Over the summer, I looked to install a new serving line at Coolidge and a grab-and-go refrigerator and lay it out much like that at Parker or the high school. So you'd have 2 serving lines coming out and with the grab-and-go in the middle. I'd like to scale up the program, scale up the composting program to include the entire district. Better use available space and systems to reduce time required for students moving through the lines at all schools. The time to get through the line is a little bit long, and if we could get it a little bit faster, we could serve more students. Better utilize, standardized school recipes to ensure consistency throughout the district. Everybody's doing the same thing, and you get the same thing as Parker, you do at Coolidge and all the elementary schools as well. Collaborating with the high school clubs to offer some more volunteer opportunities at local farms field trips to local farms and fisheries for the elementary schools and middle. Restart our in-house growing stations to produce high volume, commonly used vegetables such as lettuce. There's some really great indoor ones that require very little attention, and they basically are self-operating. I saw them at an SNA conference a little while ago. And we did receive some funding from the New England Dairy Council to expand our smoothie program to breakfasts, hopefully in elementary schools, but definitely smoothies throughout the high school and middle school. So, and again, I'd just like to thank the school committee, central office staff, the food service team, all the principals, nurses, staff, students, and the facilities team to help me get here. So, thank you.
Chuck?
I wish I worked closer so I could stop here for lunch. Just some information. I'm on another committee, and we heard a presentation from a resident, Susan Bowe is her name. She's and I might get the name of it, but called Black Earth.
Black Earth, they are,
And
yes.
So, I don't know, they're very interested in that. They may be able to help you. In fact, the schools came up as a place where we needed to do more composting.
I have good news for you.
Okay.
They are taking care of our composting at Black Earth.
Great.
Yeah, so they are they're the company we're using to haul away, and they come every Thursday. We compost on Wednesday, and they pick up on Thursday.
Great.
Yeah.
Sarah?
So excited you're here. This is like music to my ears. Fresh local food. So
Yeah.
it's exciting, more vegetarian options, especially middle school level and up particularly. One question, or maybe just a thought about the a la carte snacks and kind of improving the quality of those. I know my household, particularly in elementary school, was an area of great contention. That, it's the chips and the Pop-Tarts, and when you're little and you have a PIN code, it's like a charge card. You can get whatever you want magically. So improving the quality of that. My kids had their first Pop-Tart quality. from the Reading Public Schools, so.
Jen actually whispered in my ear the other day, she wants to remove the Pop-Tarts altogether, and I was like, that might be aggressive all at once, but a colleague of mine from Boston went on to 88 Acre Bars, and we're looking to get those in for the vending machine. They are reformulating their whole packaging and their whole recipe to offer some more options. So I hear you, and I'm trying. I do remember the day where we moved chocolate milk from Boston, and we started, it was scary. So, but I hear you, and I don't think I can remove Pop-Tarts completely, but I can offer a second option that they can see and try. So I hear you.
We ease the transition by starting with brown sugar and then like
Yeah.
just keep the blueberry around for a while, you know, yeah.
Yes,
He likes the blueberry
yes.
anyway.
Exactly, just give them the gross option.
Yeah. So, I mean, there have been an absurd number of steps forward in just like 5 or 6 months, frankly. So, and, you know, you mentioned it a couple of times throughout the presentation, but I really love sort of the, some of the ways in which we're talking to students about where your food comes from. Like, that's obviously a hugely important part of, you know, not just giving them healthy food, but helping them
Right.
sort of form those habits and think about that longer term. So I really appreciate that. I wanted to share one anecdote that a friend shared with me, which was, I'm going to try to retell this the way she did because it was hilarious. She essentially said her daughter, without any evidence to support this claim, would say barbecue sauce is disgusting. And through the magic of drumsticks and peer pressure is now singing a different tune. So that option you showed on the picture there was great. Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah.
okay.
I couldn't get my own 7-year-old to try it, but, you know, some kids at least are moving the needle. That's moving the needle for some kids, so.
Well, it was to feedback on that, a parent was looking to apply for a position within, she didn't end up, she took another position, but her son goes to Parker, and she has a daughter in the elementary school, and they go grocery shopping, and now all of a sudden, her daughter is asking for cucumbers. She's never asked for cucumbers before, but she has cucumbers at school, so now she's asking for cucumbers at home. And my idea is, the elementary schools, choice is a lot. We keep it simple with choice. But if they have sliced cucumbers on a Monday and a carrot sticks on a Tuesday, they start kind of learning that. And then when they get to the middle and the high schools, they have a full salad bar to choose from. They get to put all those pieces together. So it's the elementary, if you get them to try it with macaroni and cheese, that barbecue sauce, it's a completely different situation, so.
Absolutely. Thank you. Go ahead, Carla.
So I was part of the Parker Ohm situation with the taste test and the meatless crumble, and it was really good.
Yeah.
It was really good, and I love how he was there with his friends, and they all liked it, and now it's on the menu. So kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you.
Which is huge. I had an excited staff member take me down to the cafeteria here, and one of the food service workers was putting fresh broccoli florets into cups, and the parfaits looked great, and it was like, I felt like I was at a totally different place. So as Sean said, the absurd amount of steps that have happened in the past few months is unbelievable. A couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
Is there any engagement, and this may not be you, it may be more of the high school staff, what does the engagement look like for students who are not eating at lunch? And is there any type of engagement there because I know there's a lot of issues with some students around food and eating in front of other people and options and things like that. So if an adult is walking around and sees a student not eating, is there any type of?
I would like to take a page out of Tom's book and circle back on this, because I actually don't know. I do see that there are, so in the high school, you have the main cafeteria, and then I have seen some kids kind of find their own nook and their own cranny to eat, whether it be in the vestibule area where the vending machines are, or there's a side table by the bank. I don't know what the interaction is with the students that are not eating. Most of the students that haven't partook in the school lunch tend to bring their own lunch. And then, like I said, it's an open campus, so a lot of the seniors will leave and then come back. But I can talk to Kevin Tracy and see what the engagement would be for kids not eating in high school.
It may, and it, like I said, it may be more of the high school staff, but.
And I think maybe more taste testings as well in the high school, and getting them to kind of like look at school food a little bit differently. Like, we made a kale slaw the other day that nobody was looking at, so we've tasted it out there, and kids are like, oh, okay, yeah, not so bad. So like, kind of bringing it out to them and see if they'll come back on the other side would be something that I could try.
And even if it's a cool food to eat, like a breakfast sandwich at lunch.
Right.
Somebody might want to
Right.
eat that, but other foods we just can't eat in front of our friends.
And I think that's where like the yogurt parfait becomes an appealing situation, right? It's something that's a little bit more cooler to eat, or it's not as messy as like a sandwich. And if you have insecurities about eating in front of people, something that's easier and cleaner. And the bento boxes too, something like that's just like a grab. So it's still a full and burst, like a full meal, nutrient dense, but it's a little bit cleaner and cooler.
And then the pizzas on Friday, are those brought in?
That's, it's Gill's Pizza. So it's brought in uncooked, and then we cook it on Friday.
Okay.
So it's similar like a Sal's Pizza idea, it's just Gill's.
Okay. And then the full-time driver, does that person go and get food from farms and different things? I'm just trying to, like, what does that person's day look like, and is it a full day?
His day is, so all the elementary schools are limited in their ability to hold, the middle and the high schools can hold a week's worth of food. They have large storage areas. The elementary schools are smaller. So the full-time driver brings the meal out for the next day to all the elementary schools. He's also a lot of shuffling back and forth. So if I have a surplus in the high school, if I have cucumbers that need to get out, I'll push them out to the elementary schools, and he's there doing that. If we're sourcing something from a farm, they come to us. Red's Best comes to us on Fridays. Walden Farms comes to us on Mondays. But the full-time driver is kept quite busy shuffling back and forth. He has the ability to grab extra something from Birch Meadow and bring it over to Barrows, or, usually it's milk and bread. Somehow we're always short somewhere, milk and bread. But he's actually given us the ability to kind of manage inventory a little bit better. Because if I have a spillover at the high school, I can put it out to the middle schools. What we were doing before Coolidge became fully staffed, we were taking salads that were made on a Monday and brought them over to Coolidge on a Tuesday with the driver so that they could have that salad option. They didn't have the staff to prepare that whole menu, but we could prepare at the high school and bring it out to the middle schools.
And one more question. For an hourly rate for a food service worker, what is that? Or is that comparable to, what's it comparable to?
Schedule.
What was that?
It's a salary schedule.
But is it equivalent of like a Paris schedule? Like, what is it?
Yeah, it's a little bit less than a Paris schedule.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sarah, go
Can I
ahead.
just make one more comment? You might already be tuned into this, but there at the high school, potentially a resource for you, there is a club called the Cooking Club. It probably should be called the Food Appreciation Club, to be honest. So I'm not sure they actually cook. They have cooked on occasion, but they went into Chinatown on their own and went and did dim sum. And so they might be a good resource for you for trying new things or ideas or getting other kids involved in trying.
That's actually, I did not know that. And what I would like to do is start bringing kind of like a culinary after-school program for kids, like get them engaged in cooking with Carla.
Iron Chef.
Yeah, and another idea is the Iron Chef, the elementary Iron Chef, and have that menu item be on the menu. So got a lot of ideas, but yeah. Thank you.
We just want to make sure with public that we echo just the enthusiasm from and appreciation from the committee. I know we share that with you, but also like to make sure that we share that with your team too. We know
Yes.
that it's you and an entire team of close to 40 staff members who are working really hard. And just often like an underappreciated sort of scope of work in the sense that we don't always talk about food service as a way to improve academic outcomes for kids, but I think we know that well-nourished and healthy kids, that's really at the foundation of students being able to attend to school in the ways that we need them to, and to be healthy, just in general outside of school. So we are all really encouraged by the work, your leadership, what you're doing, and by the work of your staff. So just thank you. And I know a lot of parents are very appreciative too. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy I didn't cry through it, because I mean, it's awesome. It's just been awesome, because the staff it's been a great staff, and they all have come together, and no major changes in September, because you gotta kind of like wade into it, but they've all come together as a team, and they're the reason, they're the ones making all the meals, they're the ones cooking in the daytime, and they're doing a phenomenal job.
Ms. Herrick, did you have a comment?
Good evening, Karen Herrick, 9 Dividends Road. I'm a member of the Select Board, and I should have eaten before coming tonight. So it looks phenomenal. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you all. I have been working with, or speaking with a number of residents very dedicated to the composting, curbside composting, including Ms. Bowe and Mark, Kathy Zeke. I'm not remembering everyone. And one of the first conversations I had with Tom when he joined the district was, can we talk about composting in the schools? And the answer was yes, and here we are, and thank you. Welcome to the district. I'm so excited about this whole program. And I'd also let you know that we started a community garden last year, and phase 2 is this year. There'll be beehives. There's plenty of room over there. When you're looking for local options, there is plenty of room at Matera Cabin. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Corum?
Jeffrey Corum, Ridge Road. Sounds like great things going on. I used to love the apple crisp at Birch Meadow when I would come in to help on Friday, so I'm a little jealous that can't get it. So I agree with the push towards low sugar. My struggle that I found when I looked for that is that they put artificial sweeteners in, and my question is, are you able to find things that do not have artificial, even though they've reduced the sugar?
Yes, so more like fruits, like they've just, like the yogurt, they've just reduced the sugar. They haven't added any additional artificial
Great.
sweeteners to
Great.
bring that sugar taste up.
Great. Also, you mentioned students getting a second or a third lunch, and my question then is, for the students then who are in the third lunch shift, have they run out of food because people in the early, nope, you're able to?
That was the first thing I stopped
Okay.
in the first couple days. If there's more kids wanting more food, we make more food. So those same options, and that's one of the pillars that I've instilled in all the staff, that whatever the first lunch has, the second and the third lunch has the same options.
Great.
So there's no reason, if you have the later lunch, doesn't mean that you don't get to have the same exact options as the first lunch. And if you need to make more halfway through the day, you make more halfway through the day.
Yeah, sounds great. And then the last comment that you made, something about speeding the kids up through the checkout system, which is a great thing, but you said you could serve more students if it was faster, and I guess I'm saying, are there students who don't get served because they don't get through the line quickly enough, or?
In the elementary schools, it tends to be because it's a 20-minute lunch period, and there's a lot of kids partaking in that lunch period, so it does take them a fair amount of time to get through the lunch, through the line, and there's not a lot of time left over for them to enjoy the lunch. So if we could get them through faster, potentially they could come back around for a second lunch if they wanted to, as they can in the middle and the high schools.
Okay, thanks.
I'll just add one piece of that too. I talked to a couple of students through the past week who've shared they would want to get school lunch because it looks good, but they look and they see the line looks too long and it's going to take too long. So it just kind of shuts them off from
Right.
even exploring that too. So.
Stresses them out.
I can't blame them, really.
Lose social time.
Okay, excellent, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, next order of business, Dr. Milczewski, I think, is going to provide an update on goals at this point as we enter into the formative assessment process.
This?
He's got one there.
you got
I think you should have one over there as well. There were two of them. Oh, I'm sorry, it's right here. They're both plugged into the laptop, so you should be good.
First time we've used dual clickers.
Andy's on top of it. We got redundancy. We got redundancy tonight. It's great.
Chuck's going to be over there going,
Don't mess with me. Okay, so I'm just tonight going to provide a high-level overview of just my own progress towards superintendent goals. And I think as I share this too, I shared this before when we were going into goals, but just also like to thank just all the members of my team and the entire district, that these goals are not things that I'm sort of working on in isolation, as you all know. So these are things that reflect the hard work of many of central office members, principals, teachers, staff members who are just doing a really good job. So these are by no means just a reflection on myself and my own leadership. First goal was around designing a district strategic plan, so design and publish by June 30th, 2023. So if we look at the benchmarks, this is one where the first benchmark was to present an outline of the district strategic plan to the school committee by February 28th, 2023. We will be presenting the next school committee, so on February 9th, we'll be presenting an outline, a draft outline of the district strategic plan. So I don't have anything else to share towards this goal, otherwise we are fully on track, and again, we'll be presenting in a couple of weeks. Second goal, district improvement goal, was around innovations. This goal was around, during the entry process, myself and our team had outlined some of just the strengths, challenges, opportunities in the district. And there were a few things that had popped up as either issues, systemic issues, themes, or dilemmas in that entry plan. Namely elementary half-day, secondary math pathways, school schedules, RMHS innovation pathways, middle school literacy curriculum, elementary musical programming, full-day kindergarten, and community partnerships. So it's kind of a mix and a hodgepodge of different items that we knew we just wanted to take on at some point over the next couple of years. So as part of that goal, in terms of benchmarks, I said that at the formative evaluation, I would provide a progress update that includes 2 to 3 priority themes. So I would look at all of these themes and identify what are 2 that as a team I am going to really focus on for this year, and give a rationale to the community on why we selected those. And then the ones that I did not select that we named up there, you see it in benchmark number 2, is between now and the summative evaluation, is to be able to provide an update on each of them so you have an understanding on where we stand. So again, back to this list. I will go through 2 tonight that we've selected as sort of our priority ones for the year, but the committee and the community can also expect to have updates on each of those other themes, dilemmas, or issues throughout the rest of the year. So the 2, as we've looked through all of these as a team, I think there were 3 criteria that we looked at to determine which ones for us make most sense to take on right now. First criteria being capacity. So which ones do we feel like as an organization we can take on right now and actually and take on and actually get some movement. 2, scale. How many students is this going to impact? And then 3, need. Trying to address some of the most urgent needs up front too. So the 2 that we decided to move forward this year as our priority are first is our RMHS innovation pathways. So we had an update recently from Jess Callahan, who spoke a little bit about pathways, but the rationale for selection through those criteria: first, capacity. We feel that having this role as a director of academic achievement at the high school, who isn't tied up with the day-to-day operations and the way the high school principal is, and to have someone in that role of Jess Callahan who has moved innovation pathways forward, makes us think that now is the time for us, that we have the capacity internally to be able to move this forward. Also, in terms of scale, this is something that would not only impact all of our students at RMHS right now, but all of the students who will eventually move through the high school. And then need. So as we talk about need, we've had a lot of students, just through my entry work, through conversations with the high school team, who are looking for more opportunities that connect to like real world learning and real world sort of job needs. So again, computer science is the one that keeps coming up most frequently, but we also know we're going to be moving forward sort of the engineering pathway too. So we felt that this was a need that we really, as a community really needed to address, and felt we could do it really well. Also, one other piece that was relevant for us right now is that for those who follow some of the work just kind of statewide around innovation pathways, there's a lot of grant money right now out there around innovation pathways. Right now, in total, we are going to be applying for close to $700,000 this year in grant funding through both innovation pathways and capital skills grants. So we don't know what that funding will look like in years to come. We also don't know how competitive those fundings, those grant sources will become, a grant process will become in the coming years. So we felt like, again, knowing that money was available now, this was a good time for us to try to move forward. So as a priority theme this year, you'll be hearing several updates from myself and from our team as we are trying to move this work forward. We are still on path to next year to launch 2 pathways, both our computer science pathway and our engineering pathway. And there's information that we'll be sharing too that kind of give all the course of studies within each of those, some informational materials that are going out to all middle school students, sort of selection criteria and process and those sorts of things. Second area that we're choosing as a priority area is our secondary scheduling. So I think first starting with the high school, talking about need, we feel like as we are moving to innovation pathways, we realized that we didn't yet have a schedule that enabled us to fit in all the required courses of study without making some real adjustments. So that kind of pushed us into having to make some scheduling changes at the secondary level. With that said, we were already on to looking at high school schedule, given that we've heard a lot from the community that students have been boxed in or limited on the courses that they want to take because of some of the restrictions with our current schedule. So we felt that we have the need right now, given our sort of work with innovation pathways. This is something, again, that would have a large-scale impact on students. And in terms of capacity, that was one area that we thought about that we didn't necessarily feel like we had the technical expertise around scheduling that we would need to take this work on. So we have hired, starting last spring, as you know, the district management group to serve as a consultant to help us work through the scheduling process with the high school team. Also, given that we had started this work at the high school, we thought it was a good time to do this work at the middle school level. The middle school has been evaluating, toying with just their time on learning and different ways that they could be more creative about giving students access to Tier 1 instruction, interventions, and also some of our engaging elective blocks. So they wanted to take a closer look at just how they're allocating time. Again, something that would scale, that would impact all of our students across the district. And given that we had district management support as a consultant, we thought we'd had the capacity to be able to move that work forward. So where we stand right now, so we had a recent update from the high school team. The high school teams, their biggest focus right now is trying to, as we know, consolidate sort of the offering of health and wellness to be able to free up basically a whole semester worth of a course for a student at RMHS, while they are also looking at some other potential like larger scheduling shifts. So you'll be hearing an update from us and from the high school team in the next couple of months. And where we stand with Pathways, again, we're submitting the second part of the Innovation Pathways application, Part B. That's due by the end of the week. Also submitting our capital skills grant within the next 2 weeks. So we should have updates on that over the next couple of months as we move forward to the summative. Again, just to share too, all the other things here that we didn't prioritize as priority elements are things that we're still working on. So you can expect to be hearing from just our team with an update before the summative evaluation. Our third goal was, or my own third goal was around coaching, developing, and supporting principals, specifically design and implement a district strategy for coaching, supporting, and developing principal talent. We have spoke many times in this committee about just the impact of a principal and our need, therefore, to be able to back that up with a strategy and a system for coaching, supporting, and developing principal talent. I felt that last year we started to make some positive headway in this area, but I feel like this year we're at a whole different place in a positive way of just what we're able to provide with our principals in this area. I wanted, in terms of what I committed to at this point, committed just to being able to share just like a pulse check on where we stand for this structure and with a little bit of feedback on how I know how we're doing. So let me break it down by those three categories of coaching, developing, and supporting principals. So starting with coaching, we think it's really important that all of our leaders have access to someone who can serve as a thought partner, a push, an advocate, an accountability partner to push them along in their practice, particularly practices that align to goals that are within principal SIPs. So as you may know, all of our principals have access to now a one-to-one coach through the Center for Educational Leadership at Salem State University. They meet with the coach on average about 2 to 3 hours a week. This could include conference calls or video calls, like on-site coaching, mentorship, and also just being available as needed to, hey, help me think through this. I think some of the things that our principals have shared right away is it's really nice to have that resource and that support as someone who is a non-evaluator. Our central office team last year tried to take on a lot of the coaching role, and I think that becomes sometimes challenging when you're playing both coach and evaluator role too. So this is a non-evaluative role. We have outlined the goals of the principal coaches to be threefold. One, to provide the support of a confidential and neutral sounding board to discuss issues and concerns particular to the administrator. Two, to address goals by determining an area of focus, developing and implementing a plan to address this focus, and assessing progress. And more specifically, we help them to kind of define that by supporting the administrator's leadership-related district priorities around sense of belonging and instructional rigor. And then the third piece is help develop leadership capacity by stepping back from the daily work in order to reflect on implications for one's leadership. We did just a quick pulse check with our principals, say, hey, how impactful has this been on your practice on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not impactful at all, 5 being extremely impactful. We had 4 principals who gave it a score of 5, 3 principals who gave it a score of 4, and 1 principal gave it a score of 2. Starting with a score of 2, we think that we're working with Salem State to try to support that coach to be a little bit more effective in their work, and particularly to help that coach to be able to, I guess from our principal's perspective, they are effective in bringing in best practice and research into their sessions, but want more to be able to help apply that to their particular school context. So we are working with Salem State to see if we can get some movement on that number that's not as effective. Other than that, both that number and I think just the qualitative feedback has been very positive. We'll share more of that feedback at the summative evaluation. Like to thank all of our Salem State CEL coaches and also like all of our principals for their openness to diving into coaching and being willing to be vulnerable in that space. And we'll share more out on impact as we get to the summative. Next chunk, so that's coaching into developing. There is a lot happening around developing our principal leaders, and I think tonight we'll talk about the investment in assistant principals as part of the budget. Like, we credit our principals for taking on a lot in terms of just building their capacity around developing, and also know it's a lot when they are the only leader and, the only administrator, or actually say this way, the only principal in their building. Couple things around developing that we focused on this year. One is instructional leadership teams. We've already talked at length about the why on that. We partnered with the Center for Educational Leadership at Salem State to work all of our principals through a training, a ongoing training around building instructional leadership teams at the school site. Basically what that looks like is all of our schools have had historically a building leadership team. That team has been in a lot of ways as an operational sort of leadership group for the team. We have now pushed for that team to become more of an instructional leadership team within the building to take on all of the work relating to improvements in teaching and learning. So we meet about monthly with Salem State in that area now. By now, all of our schools have ILTs up and running, and Salem State is just supporting us. And how do you get those up and running? How do you best facilitate ILTs? What sort of activities should be happening with ILTs? One of the great things about the partnership is Salem State has also offered to be able to come provide customized coaching around the ILTs for our principals. So they have been at some of our ILT meetings at some school sites. They've helped develop agendas for some of our principals. They have watched videos from some sessions and given feedback. So I think they've taken that next step to provide customized feedback. This really matters if you look at a lot of research around instructional improvement at the school level. A lot of it hinges on having a strong instructional leadership team. It's really the foundation. One of the analogies I like is like the heart that pumps blood throughout the rest of the building. So that's been one of probably our biggest focus area in terms of development, is making sure that all of our schools have a high functioning ILT. A couple other areas around development for our principals. One being is our monthly district leadership team, where we analyze our progress towards our district improvement goals and sort of assess problems of practice, issues that schools are facing as they try to move their SIP goals forward. And then we also have, as a third part of development, is our principals are also going through level-specific learning and teaching meetings. So for example, all of our elementary principals meet with both Sarah Hardy, Aaron, and Heather every other week to go through sort of everything that's happening around teaching and learning, whether that is what professional development is looking like in with our new curriculum, what our data is looking like, and sort of our new student assessment tools. Anything they're seeing in instructional patterns in classrooms, but that's a time and a space for them to calibrate as level-specific teams. Looks a little different at the high school. We funnel all that through our high school ILT. I'd also just like to add, too, our elementary principals are also engaged in training through ArtCore, which has been amazing for all of a lot of times our training around a new curriculum tool focuses on the teachers. This is focused on our teachers and our leaders, which has been really impactful as well. So again, between our core focus on ILTs as a district for developing principals, but also giving the time and space for us monthly to meet to talk about how we're doing towards our district improvement goals, and supporting them through these level learning and teaching meeting, we feel like is a really strong strategy to be able to, and structure, and to be able to to be able to develop our principals. And if you ask our principals, which again, we'll have more feedback at the summative, I think they'll share that a lot of this work is really, supportive of their work, and it's also a lot, right? We are investing a lot in them and in taking on a real instructional focus. The last bucket, which is kind of maybe the hardest to kind of quantify sometimes, is around what's our strategy for supporting principals. Something I'm doing a little bit differently this year has been that I set up a one-to-one meeting with every principal every week, just as a quick check-in. And I found, just anecdotally from principals, that's been really helpful for them, just to be able to highlight and to put out there some of the issues, challenges, good things that are happening in their building, and also helps me to kind of keep a better pulse on individual school needs, and also to be able to look for trends across the district. Intentionally, the calls they're scheduled for 15 minutes. Sometimes they last 15, sometimes they last an hour, but it is a way for us to stay connected on what's happening at every school. And I would just also like to thank Sarah and Jen, Susan. I know our principals are constantly calling them just in the moment with things as they pop up, and I think that's our strategy to provide support, is that open lines of communication, being willing to chat through anything with them. And I think that our principals at this point, if you ask them, generally feel that level of support from administration. So as we share that goal, just like, again, this is a continued work in progress for us, but we're excited about some of the progress that we've made. I'm looking forward to sharing out more data as we get to the end of the year about just how this has landed on principals and some of the impact it's had. But I think it's the right thing to focus on as a district to be able to better, grow our principals and invest in our principals. It's a little bit of update on goal 3, and then goal 4, I don't have a huge update, which is just the rigorous goal of me participating in the new superintendent induction program. I'm thrilled to share out that I have participated. I'm actively engaged. I think I'm rocking it in the sessions, but I will share. It's these are really valuable sessions where have been impactful to me to work with other second-year superintendents who are dealing with similar challenges, different challenges. To hear different ideas, I just think has been a good resource for me and a good push for me, and really helpful for my own leadership. And this also comes with the ongoing support from Chris McGrath, who is probably the most on the site, in-person coach there probably is in new superintendent induction program. Chris is everywhere. I mean, she's here at our meetings. She's been here twice this week, so I really value her feedback. Every time I meet with her, she provides me at least a page of written feedback of, here's what's working, have you thought about this? And I think that that's just really valuable for me as someone who wants to continue to grow your practice, to have that feedback from the outside too. So I am participating and continue to meet all the benchmarks required through that program.
Great. I have a question and a request. So on goal 2 on innovations, just really a curiosity, the elementary musical programming, is that dependent on half-days, or is there something independent going on as well?
No, I can speak a little bit about what David Mosier is planning at this point without going too far into it. So David wanted to start by offering some sort of after-school private lessons at the secondary level. The community will be hearing a little bit about that soon. Elementary, the goal is to be able to get he would love to get, and we would love to get, a music program within our elementary schools during the actual school day. He believes that our best starting place may be with a after-school strings program in the fall. So we are still working with David to kind of map out what that vision would look like, but he wants to start to build some momentum this fall and then eventually build it in. It is not predicated yet on having the half days. Every district does this different. Some have it as a sort of like a core elective block during sort of the specials. Other have it you get pulled out of other like content areas. Other have it as a before or after school. So there's a lot of models we can look at, and we're looking at it both through the lens of with a Friday half day or without a Friday half day.
Okay, thank you. And then the request was, I think somebody raised this when we were having the first budget discussion about the assistant principals. There was a question about how are they going to be supported with coaches in the same way? I know we don't have the answers for that yet, but I'd love, I don't know whether it's later this year or early next year, to have a view on not only how are we going to support the assistant principals if there's a coaching model, that extends to them, but also how are we leveraging the Salem State coaches the principals have to help them make effective use of assistant principals, right? This will be new for I think all of our principals, having, or at least our elementary principals, this will be new for all of them. So I'm just curious how we're going to sort of ensure that the principals are getting support in that area as well.
I'm glad you raised that too. I think there's a lot we have to do to build out the support for APs. Support, same thing, coaching, support, development. But it also is a leadership shift for principals, as you share too, to then have to sort of, you're also managing, so we're another principal in your building, and how do you best utilize them in the role? I mean, that's a whole leadership shift, and I think as someone who had, as a principal who worked solo and then shifted to this model, I feel that, and it's definitely a shift in leadership. So I'm glad you pointed that out. It's definitely something on our radar as we try to, support our principals.
Thank you. Tom?
So I'm going to go on 2 as well. I fully, completely understand why you've chosen the 2 you've chosen, and they make logical sense. I would want to push you and ask that we also figure out whether we can push math pathways forward a little bit more. They line very closely to the scheduling, so it's like the follow-on of the scheduling conversation as well. And that, when you talk about scope and scale and impact, every one of our students is scope and scale and impacted by that. That's a 10-year-old problem at this point in time, so it's definitely one that's been out there for a while. I know that there's work already happening to think through that and look at it and, understand it a little bit more, but I think we need to press the acceleration button on the urgency for that one in particular. And that one doesn't require any sort of negotiation, doesn't require other things. It's scheduling, and we have the core platform now at both the elementary school and the middle school to feed into that, but we have to have a plan to use that to get it up to the high school appropriately. The more years we wait, the more students that just fall through the cracks, and that's not really acceptable on a go-forward basis, so we need to figure out how to escalate that one a little bit more.
I'm totally in agreement with Tom on that, and just, in looking at the schedules as well, that kind of plays into it too. And this has just been churning for years.
You're right. Thank you. We have a little bit of an update on that this year that we've had. The team that's looked at that is Kevin Tracy, Rochelle Rubino, Sarah Marchand, our principals, with Jess Callanan, also with our Allison Williams, as we know, our RMHS math and business head, and also Heather Leonard, K-8 math and STEM coordinator, and then also Lynna Williams. We've sort of wrapping our head around this, working there. So I can share, I have a little bit more of an update if the committee wants it now, or I can just wait until Heather and Allison sort of present either. Either way is fine.
Waiting is fine, I think. I think my point is I just don't want us to let a whole another year go by from a perspective of prioritization of it a little bit, right? And I think as well as I think through it a little bit more, and as you break down the middle school schedule, as you built in supports, there's almost like a natural second class that can slide in there to help fill the gap for some students as well. And as you work your way through it, we've talked about the fact that time on learning for math in middle school is nowhere near where it needs to be. And if the goal is adjusting that, then that will almost naturally fit into this. So I think there's some work there.
Sarah?
Following up on that, I think, if we're opening up and to look at scheduling, there's a lot of things that I think in general that fall into that bucket of we need to look at schedules for this reason or that reason. So taking that, overall view of what are the things that are impacted by scheduling right now. And we don't necessarily have to do a deep dive on all of them, but certainly math should be a high priority. But there are others as well that fall into that kind of.
Absolutely.
One more thing I forgot. This is what I was going to say before. It aligns right with the STEM track that we're talking about, putting an innovation pathway, right? So we put an innovation pathway in place, but nobody can achieve it because they don't have the math background to achieve it in the middle school level.
Okay, so just from a process perspective, just as a reminder of kind of how this works for the formative, so the ask is for each committee member to send to me, please send it only to me, don't send it to the other members. No more than 2 pages, you'll write a blurb essentially on your evaluation of Dr. Milichewski's progress at this point in the year against each of the goals. If you need sort of a refresher on how we approached it last year, it was March 7th was the meeting where we reviewed it. So if you look at the March 7th packet, it has not only the consensus view that Tom pulled together, but also each of our individual submissions. I'm asking everybody to submit theirs to me by next Friday, so that's February 3rd. I'll turn it around over the weekend, create the consensus view so that it can go into the packet early that week. And then on February 9th, it'll be an agenda item, we'll discuss it and ideally adopt a consensus view of the formative assessment during that meeting. But should be a relatively light lift for folks. It's, it's, like I said, a paragraph or so on each goal is kind of what those folks submitted. You're doing it right now?
putting a reminder.
Oh, I thought you were doing it right now. Yeah.
Using ChatG,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually worth seeing how well it does for this, yeah. ChatGPT, I think is what you're getting at, yeah. It's a good point. So that's the process. So, again, I'll just ask that folks submit those by next Friday, so I have the weekend to collate and pull together a consensus view. Okay? Anything else on the formative before we close out the budget discussions? Okay. So with that, we'll move to the budget. So this is an opportunity for any, kind of final discussion the committee wants to have. Our action tonight would be to take a vote to adopt the superintendent's recommended budget as the school committee's recommended budget, which will then be passed on to FinCom for consideration. I was muted there. Hopefully that didn't impact anything negatively. Oh, it's just people on the YouTube, okay. So that'll move on to FinCom, which, as I said, will be on their agenda for March 1st, in anticipation of the budget going before town meeting, of course, in April. So any further final discussion on the budget? I know we've had 3 meetings and who knows how many one-off meetings on the side and discussions and email questions and whatnot. So any further discussion at this point? Tom?
I'll just provide a quick update of a follow-up from that I mentioned last week. I had a chance to sit down with Susan and Tom to go through the full-day kindergarten modeling and, look at it and understand what's happening here. And my takeaway from that is I'm very confident we're in very good shape to follow through with the plan. The fact that we're able to keep the revolving fund both last year and this year at the same level as part of the plan right now carries that revolving fund to cover a lot of the potential expenses over the next 3-4 years as we try to level out the impact. And we were playing with the numbers a little bit. We might increase throughout next year the 600,000 to 650 or something like that to level that a little bit more as we look at it. But ultimately, we can get our way to basically a $200,000 impact for the next 2 or 3 years afterwards, which should be absorbable. Now, there's other work that was being done to look at kind of the impact of the carry forward on a year-by-year basis and what that looks like at certain different COLA numbers and things like that that are part of the conversation as well that we'll probably have follow-up conversations on. But at least from a full-day kindergarten perspective, I came away from that conversation very confident that we're in good shape. One other thing I raised as a concern last time was the special education related side, and Susan, I think, brought an excellent idea to the table that we haven't really discussed as a town necessarily in the past, but other towns do, and that would be a stabilization fund. So we're taking away a lot of the, parachute, for lack of a better way, in case of a balloon year or something else along those lines. But if we were to, put in place a stabilization fund for special education, we could fund it with $250,000, $500,000 or something like that in 1 or 2 years of normal operating budget. And then if something happens in the future, and if we need to pull down, we have something to pull from that doesn't impact the operating budget on a go-forward basis.
That, can I ask you?
You can ask, but Susan can probably answer.
So if we did the way I understand the stabilization fund, goes to town meeting, controls that. So, and it requires a 2/3 vote of town meeting. So would we have to go to town meeting to be able to utilize that stabilization fund for balancing our budget? How would you see that work out?
Yes, we'd establish the stabilization fund with vote by town meeting, and then we would seek appropriation from town meeting to apply those funds if we're in a situation in any given year that our operating budget couldn't cover any unanticipated costs.
But would we have to then convene town meeting to get that 2/3 vote?
Well, what we could do, town meeting is in the spring. Sometimes town meeting is in the fall. So between those 2 meetings, we could, I think that we could address our needs.
So we wouldn't get caught in the middle of a
No.
year?
Yeah, I don't think the idea would be to use it on an emergency basis in the middle of the year. It would be when the budget, when there's a balloon year, and we anticipate needing more support than we can fund out of the operating budget that year, then we would ask for funds out of the stabilization fund to pad that following year's budget, essentially.
Can I just ask another question, Sue?
Sure.
So is that all right, Tom? You were.
Yeah, go ahead.
So how would we seed the stabilization fund? Would we
How would we see it?
start it?
Seed it.
Oh,
Seed it.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Free cash. I'm kidding.
In other communities, school departments have used their realized end-year savings.
Okay.
And have used those funds to establish a stabilization fund. Some communities also, the municipality adds to it. So it varies, but I think in most cases, the school department uses their savings to establish the fund and then can continue to contribute to it over a couple-year period.
I want to build on Chuck's question here, since you and I didn't get into it too much, but we need town meeting to pull out. Do we need town meeting to put into, or can we just put in
No.
at our own discretion?
You know, I would have to follow up on that. I don't know for sure.
I don't believe you do. I think it's just a 2/3 vote to take out
To
of.
establish, yeah.
Because we set up a, town meeting set up a, the town set up a stabilization fund, not the most recent override, but the one before that.
3?
Yeah, and I don't even know if we've even used it. I mean, it just keeps growing.
There's money in there, yeah. It just sits there,
Yeah, but that wasn't done by that was just done by the town manager, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, not related to this, it's just town stabilization, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, I think whether it is, I guess the point was, it gave me more confidence that we could move forward with this overall plan. And it could be intra-year, not inter-year necessarily, potentially, because you're usually going to find out about a student going OOD, middle of the year, not at the beginning of the year. You would have planned for it if it was the beginning of the year.
Right.
So if it happens in November, you don't have enough time necessarily to act in November, but you could hold it for a period of time or manage it in the operating fund for a period of time until you ask in April, and then you feed back the operating fund without too much trouble.
That's right.
So I think that to me gave me confidence that the way in which we're looking at this and the way in which we're looking at special education out of district on a go-forward basis puts me in a much more confidence level from a sustainability perspective. So I was happy with that idea, and I'm happy with the idea of how we would fund it as well. Build it up to a point where we're comfortable with maybe 500,000, maybe not too much more than that. And then when we need it, we have an ability to go back and get it, but we would have a specific use case. Obviously, we can't at town meeting talk about which student it is that caused the problem, or not problem, but caused the need, or students as the case may be, but we would obviously have documentation behind what the need is at that point in time.
That's right.
Okay. Anything else? Is there a motion? Sorry, I should just look to the audience. Anything from the audience? Dr. Coram? Sorry, we're so close.
Jeffrey Coram, Ridge Road. I had asked before the questions went in, a particular question about the revolving accounts, specifically the Coolidge extracurricular and Parker extracurricular. And I didn't see that answer show up in the packet, in the list of questions. So I went back actually and pulled up the FY 2019 budget, which shows the balances as of June 30th, 2017. And the Coolidge extracurricular has the exact same $4,738, and the Parker $3,860. It's been there for 6 years, and there's still, no plan, in the budget. It shows nothing coming in, nothing going out in next year. So again, my question is, what are we doing with that money? Why is it just sitting there? Why isn't it benefiting our students in some way?
Yes.
Please.
Could I address that? Yes, I agree. There are those two accounts, and then there are some other accounts that have built up balances over the years. And at this moment, there aren't definitive plans in place to spend down those funds. So actually, I was just speaking with Dr. Milichewski this evening that I'm developing a 3-year, multi-year spend down allocation plan for our special revenue funds. And we'll be working with principals to allocate those funds in a way that will best support our students. So we are finishing up our student activity accounts and clubs. And it's all related. Those accounts, many accounts have had also balances rolling forward, and some accounts have been inactive for several years. So on March 2nd at the school committee meeting, we'll be presenting to the school committee the student activity accounts that we'd like to close, consolidate, shift forward with the grade level that generated those funds. So this is all part of a process that I'm going through. It's something that I've been thinking about and talking about for the last 18 months or so, but we are making progress, and I think you'll be pleased to hear our plan when I can come back in a couple of months with the outcome of our work.
Thank you. Now we'll take a motion.
I move to approve the superintendent's recommended budget for fiscal year '24.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Chuck. Any final discussion? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? It carries 5-0. All right, we're 4 minutes late. Is there a final motion for this evening?
Let's just talk for a little bit.
Nope, nope. I'll make the motion myself if I need to.
My comments on the budget, because I was
Look,
trying to...
somebody will second it. Somebody else wants.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Carla. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you, Chuck.
Debatable.
Non-debatable. All in favor? All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.